we are able to get the people up in chat. But we wanted to say hello to you guys. I'm here with my man, Dan. Dan, how do I pronounce your last name? Is it Karpuc?
Karpuc. So Karpuc. Like a car and a hockey puck. That's the easy way to think about it.
Okay, cool. Dan Karpuc. I realize I talk to you all the time, and I don't even know that one for sure. So anyway. All right, but yeah, man, I'm coming off of an interesting night. I actually had a really good shot at winning. I played this one lineup in the 555 buy-in on FanDuel for DraftKings for baseball, and I was in third place late in it, and I had a real shot. I had a nice little Houston stack, and I had Toro at third base, which nobody played in DraftKings, and I had Matt Olson at first base, who was 1% owned at 2 home runs. But I just didn't quite get there in the end, and then there was a Trout second home run hurt, and then the Arizona going completely off, even though people didn't own them much, they still were enough to pass me. So that was kind of brutal. So now I'm ready to get back after it on another great day. We've got golf going on. We've got basketball. We've got baseball. It's a lot of stuff going on, man.
Who do you end up going with in golf for your most owned golfer?
My most owned golfer is Tommy Fleetwood.
Oh, nice.
But I'm off. I played a couple of risky guys who are some off to mixed starts. I went with a lot of Rory. He's off to a bad start, but it's still a long time to go. But it's just I'm just going to bet on the guys who I trusted. I actually like Tiger a lot in the end, so I bet on him. He's actually off to a really good start.
Nice.
Yeah, so we got that stuff going on. I'm going to wait to hopefully we can get this tweeted out soon and get some.
We're going to tweet this out right now so that it looks like Periscope is working.
Yeah, we got a thumbs down already. What does that mean, Cam? Rich been on long enough to get a thumbs down. He thumbs down the second he got in the chat room. What's going on, buddy? Give us a thumbs up. What do we need the thumbs down for? What do you want to see? What do you want to talk about? No, I'm just messing with him. I don't know.
Yeah, yesterday I had a nice night on both FanDuel and DraftKings for NBA. I did bite the bullet and roster Terrence Ross, which was never fun. He had like 3 points at halftime, but he got back in the second half a little bit. I was expecting a little more out of Jared Allen, but it is what it is. And had a nice little ROI last night. So looking at repeat tonight or today.
Hey, every winning day is a good day, and that's good to hear. I'm glad you had a winning night. We have probably people going to be able to pop in pretty soon. Again, just waiting to get that out on Twitter. And are you guys sending that one out, Dan?
Yep, I'm sending one out right now.
All right, perfect. You go ahead and I'll talk and just make sure that I'm in our chat room and available in case anybody does want to talk. I'm just going to remind them to say what's up when we get in chat. And we will be off and running. We'll break down every game for baseball. We'll break down every game of basketball. We'll answer your QQs. We're going to go through everything, Dan. But remember, enter the code MLB is back for 20% off of any BetQL subscription. I'm going to be dropping a lot of the DFS stuff and some of the straight bets I like, and Dan's going to be giving me a lot of the BetQL takes over here today. That sound good, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. And also I wanted to mention with this 20% off, it works for annual plans and weekly plans. So 3-month plans, if you want to get in at any level, it works. I mean, obviously I would use it for the annual plan just to get the maximum amount of savings. But I just wanted to point that out, that this deal is pretty amazing, and it's not going to last forever. So I would jump in on that, enter code MLB is back, and get that 20% off right now. Our MLB 5-star bets, which are max value bets, have gone 5-0 over the last 2 days. So get in and ride the wave, I'd say.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I love it. I feel like that I need to take more advantage of it. Sometimes when I get so busy, I actually don't even have time to make the actual sports bets because I'm doing so many different lineups. As K9 Broncos pointing out in chat, yeah, ready to win some cash. That's what I'm trying to do. But I love these bets, and when I actually slow down and get this whole schedule figured out, I plan on taking full advantage of these 5-star bets and the 4-star bets. And you know what? Even some of the other ones, there's some really good points you make on them. All right, you ready to about to get into this? What are we going to talk about first? I guess we'll talk about the one game that's not on the DraftKings or FanDuel slate. But if you're playing a showdown, we have Pelicans and Kings. Even if you're not, we have the Pelicans as a -4 at -4.5. Dan, what do you think about that as a straight up bet? 233 total.
I mean, sharp bettors are hammering the Pelicans right now. I think that, if you think this is the game that Zion Williamson is unleashed, which I might think, I kind of think that'll happen today. He has a 36.8% usage rate for DFS. I would be all over him in those showdowns. I have him in my captain spot. I'm expecting him to go off today. But, I kind of like the Pelicans and the over in this situation. What about you?
I like the Pelicans as well. The over wouldn't surprise me at all. I love what you pointed out. I think it's crazy, the highest usage rate. I'm still worried out a little bit about the minutes in terms of some of the captain stuff because I would think about De'Aaron Fox, but I do think it's a definitely an interesting play. And if you're going to play the showdown, I think you have to try and get one of Hield or Bogdanovich in there just in case, because one of those guys probably hits. And I had Hield the other day in regular DFS, and he was pretty good, but didn't quite blow up for me like I was hoping. But yeah, I didn't really touch this one much. I actually like the Pelicans. I would concur with that bet. The over, I agree with, but it's a little bit scary when you get to these kind of crazy overs, and we've seen some duds lately.
True. And in terms of the Sacramento bigs, who do you think, are you looking for, Harry Giles? I kind of think he might be an interesting play today. Big, long, athletic, to kind of match up against Zion. What do you think there on that side?
Yeah, I absolutely, excuse me. I absolutely could get behind that in a showdown format. That's probably the guy, one of the guys I would use. I would look at ownership and try and, again, I haven't checked it out yet, but I would try to find some of these guys who might be a little bit more off the board. I don't know if people play Holmes more, I would play Bjelica. If people, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things like that, but I think that actually going to Giles makes some sense also. So I can get behind that.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to what do you say we move on to the main slate games? We have the Heat and Bucks.
Absolutely. And first, starting off, Kelly Olynyk, he is my Orlando MVP so far. Love this dude ever since his Celtics days. I'm a big Celtics fan. But he's been on fire lately. I'm kind of interested to see what happens with him today in terms of ownership on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Obviously, I think Tyler Hero is a solid play with Jimmy Butler off the floor. So what's your read on Miami here?
I think we need to get news on Dragic for certain before we do anything. Jamie just popped in the chat. Hey, what's up, Jamie? How you doing? My personal take is we need to try. First of all, I think the Bucks. I actually think this is a bet. I would bet the Heat this game all day long. I'm not if we're going to see the Bucks sort of do what they did a little bit against, and I don't think they'll be that bad, obviously, but I think you're going to see, not too many minutes from Giannis and all these guys, and they're just going to, you want to keep these guys healthy, but also on the court. I think the Bucks might even win the game, but it just seems like too big of a spread, and the Heat are competitive even without Butler. That's the first thoughts I had in the game, and I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see the under hitting here, but. Yeah, Tyler Hero gets the usage bump. Kelly Olynyk, obviously, in the starting lineup, but, it makes a lot of sense. What I'm doing a little bit today, I think I might fade some of Kelly Olynyk on DraftKings and play him on FanDuel, where he's going to be lower owned at center.
Yep. And
it allows you to really create kind of a different build over there, which is FanDuel is a very different thing than DraftKings because you're trying to really win the position. And you don't need to win it by outscoring it, win it per dollar or whatever that you want to set up. And you want to try and get off of what the general consensus is, which everybody's going to play either Ayton or Jokic or one of those guys. And I just think that you're going to get slightly lower ownership on him over there, which will differentiate. And he's a little higher priced, but I really like him as well. I do think there's some volatility with him always, even without Butler here. If we lose, this game becomes super interesting for DFS if we somehow lose Dragic before the break. Yep. Then you get Nunn involved. Then you got Hero involved. Duncan Robinson, to be honest, against the Bucks team that allows. I think they have the second lowest 3-point percentage against them, but they also allow the most threes in the NBA because usually they're up by a bunch and they allow a lot of open jumpers. So that Duncan Robinson can hit 10 threes in the game. I just don't find myself clicking that button much today. So it's I have no interest in anybody on the Bucks, and on the Heat, we're really waiting on Dragic. But for right now, even with Dragic, the other guy we've got to talk about is Iguodala.
Yep.
Iguodala played 30 minutes the other night, put up 28 fantasy points. If we're going to start seeing minutes like that without Butler on there aren't a ton of guys who can create. And I actually think Bam is in play, by the way.
I was just going to mention him. Could this be one of his stealing assist games?
It could absolutely be. It's a terrible, the individual matchup where he's going to end up probably locking up with Giannis is not great, obviously. But he does have size. They're going to have to run some of the offense through him. I think you could see a big game from him here. There's just a lot of spots. And then, look, another one who's cheap, especially on FanDuel, is Jay Crowder, who's 4K. He put up 30 some odd a couple games back with Butler, and now we've got no Butler. I know he struggled the last game, but he actually was great. I was off to have, that he had the 10 fantasy points in 2 minutes start, and you got Jay Crowder on FanDuel locked into the big ones, and I'm excited. Let's go. And then you don't see any fantasy points for 3 more quarters. But there are just a lot of these guys, and I know I'm sort of generally speaking about a bunch of guys, but I think you want to try to pick 2 of them if Dragic is out, and you might want to pick 2 anyway. And for me, the number 1 and 2 would be on DraftKings, Olynyk, and even though again I'm trying to fade him because of ownership, but Olynyk and Iguodala, and I mean Hero's interesting too. I'm sort of stuck on Hero and Nunn. I like Nunn better on FanDuel where he's cheaper. But I'm stuck. I sort of need to wait. Need this Dragic news.
Wait and see. Yeah, exactly. Now, on the other side, I know you mentioned, obviously, the other night was a little bit disconcerting when Giannis and Chris Middleton sat after halftime. But, are all these guys out of play for you now? Eric Bledsoe, I know he's coming back. His minutes are limited, so he's probably out of play. But, are you going to be having any ownership on these guys, or do you just not trust the situation?
I'm not going to have any ownership. I get it. If I was playing more lineups today, which I'm not playing as many as I usually do, I would probably get behind a little bit of Giannis just because I could see it flipping back. But I don't think I'm going to end up getting there today. And there's other big spends that obviously we'll talk about. Like we just got news that Westbrook is not expected to play. We know he was questionable. So that you can definitely obviously downgrade him there. It's kind of a shame because in this spot normally, whether it was in Houston, but especially if it was in LA where he went to college here, and I'm a big Westbrook guy, obviously, it's not a game that he would ever miss. You know what I mean? This is a game he circles. He always goes crazy against the Lakers in LA. We saw this matchup earlier. I actually had the DraftKings box seats at this matchup earlier this year, and Westbrook and AD went off. It was really fun. Anyway, that's going to change the slate a lot. So we're going to have to adjust to some things. I just got that information in right now. So we got to real quick. I'm just going to mention one more thing from K9 Bronco. He said you need perimeter guys against the Bucks. I agree. That's how you beat them is from the outside. You want to try and hit those threes against them. That's pretty much the only chance you have in general. But are you interested in playing anybody from Milwaukee? Is there any way you could sell me on anybody? I just can't seem to get there on this slate.
I can't do it. I just can't do it. There's just too much uncertainty. I think now that that Westbrook news dropped, especially, there's just other places I want to go for sure. So that'll just be a cross-off situation for me.
Giannis, by the way, over the last 2 years, has also had. Sorry about that. Giannis has also had the worst games of his career the last 2 years. Since he's become Giannis, have been against Miami. But those were also in Miami, and you can give Miami Nightlife probably a little credit for that one.
Exactly. All right, so should we move on to the GOAT TJ Warren?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh my God, this guy! What is this? What's going on? What's going on? You have the answer?
I have some answers. Okay, so TJ Warren's a guy who actually had some explosions like this earlier this year when we had some of these guys out. Without Sabonis specifically, it seems to really be just massively. He's just crushed. I mean, it's just the usage is great, but he's really he really is aggressive, and he's been extremely efficient. Do we play him today? I'm struggling with it. I'm really struggling with it because it's interesting, especially on FanDuel where you have Kawhi at 8,400 and him at 88. How many people are going to actually come down to it and click that button? But I think the upside is there, and even with all these other guys back, he's still been good. The answer for me would be some, but not much. I want to play more. Yeah. I think the price tag, it is a little sticker shock, but there are other guys who are, it's going to be hard. Harden's going to be a hard guy to fade now and to throw in an expensive TJ Warren, but it is a great matchup. It's his former team. I'm stuck on it, man. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up with some of them. It's going to depend on how much opens up from that heat situation.
How do you think his ownership is going to compare to guys like Kawhi and Paul George today?
Well, I've actually run some projections on that so far. So let me just take a quick look and just see, because this is kind of an important one. I at first look, my guess would be that the projections are all going to say he'll be completely unowned. Yeah, they are. 6 to 11% is the highest they see him getting. Yeah. So that makes him extremely interesting. Whereas you're going to have Paul George, who I love, by the way, at 23% only. Actually, it's a little lower than I would have thought on DraftKings anyway. And then we've got Kawhi, I'm guessing, is going to get the over ownership on FanDuel, but will he on DraftKings as well? A little less interest in Kawhi. It seems like people are sort of catching on to what I've been laying down about, maybe people just paying for him in the wrong spots, and not when they necessarily need him to go crazy.
Got it. And I do want to mention that in this game, BetQL likes the Pacers -2. The last time I checked, it was a 4-star bet. So I just wanted to mention that as well. But on the other side of this game, obviously, Ayton's price tag.
Before you jump, should we mention a couple of the other Phoenix guys? Because I do like a couple of them.
Yeah.
The indie guys, excuse me.
Other Indiana.
Yeah, the other indie guys are interesting to me just because these minutes have been pretty solid. I really think that Miles Turner is in more play than usual today. I like the matchup against. I know he never really seems to get there, but I really do like the matchup against Ayton. I like the Suns attack the basket, that they turn the ball over. It also sort of suits his steal block upside, his stocks, if you will, upside. And I kind of like him today, so I think he's reasonable. I think Victor Oladipo is going to be popular. And I've been nervous because I haven't seen this recently out of him, but I've also was the guy who, one of the big tournaments I hit towards the end was because I played Oladipo at like 3% ownership and put up 50 fantasy points. We can see that out of him in this kind of matchup. I mean, he's still their best player. He's just not their best player at the moment. But if he gets going, I'd like him. The problem is you're betting on, what we have is one of the highest owned players in the slate, and that just seems a little bit excessive for me. So I will have some interest in Oladipo, but again, I don't think I want to play him at 40% ownership.
Yep, gotcha.
Phoenix now.
Moving on to the other side. Ayton's price tag is something that jumped out at me on both DraftKings and FanDuel today. Is he going to be a priority play for you?
Yeah, he's going to be I think he might be the most popular player on DraftKings. I mean, depending on what value shakes out at coming up. He and Harden, I expect, would be the mega chalk. But he's in a good the thing is, it's a good spot. It's not as great as everybody thinks. It's really just a price thing, isn't it? Like we have a guy who basically is going to go out there and get 40 more times than not at 7,200. That's a good enough reason, and he's forward eligible on DraftKings, which is going to make his ownership leap on DraftKings. Now, there's a chance that could keep it down a little bit on FanDuel, but for the most part, he's going to be extremely popular, I think, for pretty good reason. I don't think he's played up to his full potential so far in this bubble, but at crazy high ownership, certainly fading him in at least some of your lineups is a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, it's a horrible matchup for Devin Booker. I can't even think of a worse one except for the one he just dominated in, which is the Clippers. So they slow things down, Indiana, usually, but they've been playing a little bit faster. It's not a fun matchup, whether it's Oladipo or any of those guys they're going to throw on him. But Devin Booker is playing this bubble like he's playing AAU. Him and actually the way he and TJ Warren both are playing, it's like they're playing an AAU tournament or something. They look like they're just out there getting theirs. So I actually think that's kind of an interesting one, but I don't think I'm going to realistically get too much of him. I just think he's like an off the board play who I consider. What do you think about the total in this game? 229.5. I think it's would usually seem way high, but it's the way it's been playing fast. Phoenix has been playing fast, and Indy's sort of been playing to their opponent's pace. Yeah. So I would lean towards the under, but I don't think that I don't have any conviction about it.
Gotcha. All right, moving on to the Clippers. I know you mentioned you like Paul George tonight. Someone that's kind of popping in our RotoQL model is Reggie Jackson. He's priced down at 4,000 on FanDuel. It kind of allows you to do a bunch of things over there. 5.74x value. What's your read on the Clippers today?
My read on the Clippers is that I think it's really a high variance situation outside of Paul George. And Kawhi's fine now with these prices too. But they finally brought him down. I think that, so on FanDuel, you play Reggie Jackson. You don't play him on DraftKings. I'm trying to think of who else, like if I would play on Jermichael Green is cheap. Marcus Morris is an interesting value play at 4,200. I think a lot of what happened in the last game, and I really messed up on that one. He had both Morris brothers, but especially Marcus has absolutely dominated his old team, the old Phoenix team. He didn't do anything crazy except for he just got hot, but he put up 28 fantasy points the last game, so people are going to catch notice. But I'm not really that interested. I think mostly it's going to be siding with Paul George and Lou Williams, who I think might see a minute tick up, and that could easily make him like an interesting tournament play. So that's where I'm leaning on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's mostly I don't mind George, I don't mind Kawhi, and I like Reggie Jackson a ton.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, what you said, Reggie Jackson on FanDuel, Reggie Jackson probably a good fade on DraftKings based on his price. On the other side of this, how are you going to handle Luka tonight, and how do you think the Clippers are going to defend him?
So it's going to be interesting. I think that it's a tough matchup, obviously, for Luka, but he's pretty matchup proof. This is going to be a little bit of a trickier one. So what I'm doing is, hey, no surprise, guys. Guess what I'm doing in general? Guess who's in a lot of my lineups? Kristaps Porzingis. I'm not going to – the projections are just wrong about him. I'm convinced of it. If he doesn't foul out in 27 minutes the other day, he would have 50 again. It's just he's too cheap. He's going to be unowned. So I side with Porzingis in between the two of them. But I think at low ownership, which is going to happen now because Harden's going to be high owned, I think that you can argue for Luka. And if we do have a little more value now with Houston, which we'll get into in a little bit, I think that we can maybe now start stars and scrubs a little bit more. Do I want to play Luka and Kristaps against this team together? Probably not. But the way to beat the Clippers is usually by the bigs anyway. I don't like the individual matchup for Luka as much. I don't like the price tag. But he's still Luka, so you can possibly get all of them in. But I think that mostly I'm going to prioritize Porzingis.
Gotcha. Any other plays on Dallas that you're looking to, maybe as complementary plays, anything like that?
It's you kind of want. There's just really no reason to. They're not playing Cleveland the minutes I thought they might. K9 Bronco says he knew it. He knew I would love the Porzingis thing. Let's see. Yeah, I can't really think about anybody. I think that Dorian Finney-Smith would be the only one who I'd really consider. I don't think Tim Hardaway Jr. is the worst play in the world. It just doesn't seem like it makes sense to me.
Got it. All right, shall we move on to Blazers and Nuggets?
By the way, I do sort of like the Clippers to win that game, but I think the spread is probably about right.
Gotcha. Yeah. The Blazers are 4-point favorites. The over/under is 231.5. I guess we can start. Let's start with the Nuggets side. Michael Porter Jr. has been absolutely beasting over these last two games. Are you going to go back to him today? His prices haven't really reflected, those performances.
Yeah, he's crazy cheap, especially over on DraftKings. And you see, I'm on FanDuel, and you see how he's doing it. Like what? So you have to with him. It's almost like you have to look at the route he doesn't do it. Like he's not playing well. They pull him because of his defense, foul trouble. These are the routes where he doesn't play 30 plus minutes. Because when he's out there for 30 plus minutes, you're pretty much getting your 30 to 60 fantasy points. You know what I mean? And on FanDuel at 5,500, very difficult not to play him. He's going to be absolute crazy chalk over there. I just want to point out that there is some variance in this. They have a lot of bodies. They did just play yesterday in a high-paced game. There's a chance that maybe he could let you down, and the only reason I'm looking for that chance is because you're talking probably 70% ownership on FanDuel, like really crazy. So as a GPP player, something you wouldn't want to get. Obviously, you lock him in cash. In fact, I think you lock him in cash on both sites, even at 6,400. And I like him a little bit better as a play, obviously, on DraftKings because he's going to be a little bit lower owned.
Yep. And now with Jokic also has a really tough matchup as well here. Mm-hmm. Not only do you have Nurkic, who's a bruiser down low, but then you have Whiteside coming in after him as well. So I think his life might be a little bit difficult today too. So I think that kind of gives Porter a boost even more than usual from a scoring perspective, at least.
So I've been running some of my projections, been trying to change my minutes up, and I have a pretty strong take on this. The projections do, I should say. The way I'm sort of seeing this, that they play this game, I don't think Jokic is going to go much above 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I just think back-to-back in this situation against a fast-paced team. He's got his old buddy Nurkic in there, which make him get a little little extra love there. And usually I would love to play him in this spot, but the back-to-back does have me concerned in a faster-paced game. So I don't think they're going to get too crazy with him. I think they're still trying to figure themselves out, so they will play him and stuff. But I think you're going to see closer to 30 minutes. I actually think KP at the same price, well, the projections do. They have KP outscoring Porzingis, Jokic in general. So that's kind of interesting. And I just think that there is, on these back-to-backs, it's something to be aware of. And remember, Denver's got a lot of big bodies. It's not like they're a bad team without Jokic, too. They like to play. Also, Plumlee's played really well against his old Portland team since he left. Yep. So I don't like Plumlee necessarily because I just don't think you need to go there anymore on this slate. But I think that he would have been interesting before. I'm sort of off the Jokic thing on this one, and I hope it doesn't bite me too bad.
Got it. On the other side, we know you love Damian Lillard. I love him again tonight. Are you going to continue to ride that hot hand in big game Dame? You going back?
So I am, but I'm not going to do it as heavily as. I just want to point out Denver's done a good job against point guards all year, even regardless of who's played for them. And it's sort of the way they guard the position in general. I know they're missing a lot of those guys, but they've done a good job while here in the bubble too, and they've also slowed games down that I didn't think could be slowed down. So I worry about that. I actually think this is a really high total to see Denver be a part of, but we just saw it happen with San Antonio yesterday. I could see this game actually hitting the under, by the way. But I do like Lillard, and I like that no one's going to play Zach Collins, and I can play Zach Collins over Olynyk on DraftKings and use the leverage on FanDuel. You know what I'm saying? Because Olynyk is going to be the chalk on DraftKings, and it's going to keep Collins low owned, whereas Collins, not that I like Olynyk better, but Collins is $500 cheaper, and he's going to have probably 1/3 or 1/4 the ownership. So that's sort of what I'm looking to do with this game. But I like Lillard. It's just a matter of how much I'm going to be able to get to him because one of like not playing Harden feels weird, and then I'm playing a lot of Luka. So if I can get all three of those guys together, that would be a nice little trio.
Yep, definitely. Nurkic, we have to talk about how he's been absolutely beasting it here. Is he someone you're going to look to tonight, or you staying away?
He's just too. I mean, I just don't think I can get behind that price. I know he's great. I know he's been great. I like in general the way that he plays against Jokic, but I just think that I'm going to stay away tonight, and I think everyone else will as well. But that gives you an idea that maybe for a big GPP tournament, I think it makes some sense. I mean, Portland's these are their last legs. They're playing. This is their playoffs for them. That's why you got to like taking players from this team. So you can expect good minutes out of all of them. I mean, we've seen Nurkic in the low 30s, man. I think he even had foul trouble against Houston, and that's why I kept him out maybe for a little bit. But anyway, I really like. It's weird to like the Portland side so much. I don't usually like to pick on Denver too much. I even like McCollum on FanDuel, not on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, where you as one of the shooting guards, I think it's kind of interesting. But I do think he could go off. But I'm leaning Lillard. I do think Nurkic makes it a little bit more nerve-wracking because he could take up a lot of the usage. But I'm still gonna put most of my stock in Lillard and Collins.
Got it. All right, should we move on to the final game here? This is probably the most important one on the DFS slate, at least. How are you going to handle, if Westbrook sits, which it sounds like he's going to, are you going full lock button on James Harden?
So, full, maybe not, but I definitely think it's hard to not play him. Man, I need to think about this for a second because I don't really know that it's going to change. That I think they're going to be in the game. The Lakers haven't looked good. They're on the back-to-back. I'm just trying to find a way to fade him, and it's hard for me to justify. It really is. Like even if Luka does outscore him, then I'd be trying to jam them together. Like I think the answer is you're going to have a hard time fading him today.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Come up with a different type of build. I don't know.
Exactly. So guys like Daniel House. Covington, you think obviously, this leads to additional opportunities for guys like that, right?
Yeah, big boost for all of them. I think that I'm still updating the projection systems, so it's going to be a little bit hard for me to get right now. I wish it had happened like 15 minutes before it did, so I would have it all ready by now. I was hoping by the time we got here. But basically what I would say is we want to try and get exposure to these cheap guys. Now, nobody really creates shots except for Harden and West. Like, that's why I don't know how to not do it. I want to use in the starting lineup. I'm interested in McLemore. He'd be the first guy I'd look at for value. He's just going to have to play 30 minutes probably. I think there's more shots to go around for guys like House, for guys like Covington, for guys like DJ Tucker, potentially, for Jeff Green to potentially get some more minutes.
Austin Rivers, maybe?
Yeah, I hate playing Austin Rivers. I don't do anything, but he'll be on my list for sure. But I would prefer the upside of McLemore making 6 threes or something, which is very possible. They played. It's not. I know it sounds crazy, but it's really, really likely actually. They're also going to probably throw Damari Carroll in for some minutes, which you don't play Damari Carroll. I'm just saying that you won't have so many more minutes. I do think Jeff Green is an interesting, because he's another one who can kind of create and get shot, maybe play along there with Harden. So maybe you look at Jeff Green a little bit.
Got it.
But I think his McLemore is the first one who stands out as benefiting, and Harden obviously. Nice.
And on the other side, any interest in AD or LeBron or both tonight?
Neither. I can't play either of them.
Yeah.
Like at some point, Lakers are going to have to start looking like the Lakers, which usually is when I want to jump on LeBron or AD. But the matchup would suit AD better. He's been great in this matchup, and I actually think he's fine. But I don't think they're going to get a ton of them tonight. I'm just not going to get to them. They've been so alarming without the one game for my AD, but this is a spot where I could see him getting back on track. I just don't think I'm going to end up getting there much.
Got it. And now I just wanted to briefly go over quick. On the BetQL app, which you could download for free, by the way, we post poll questions every single day. And one of the poll questions we had for this game was, which style of play will reign supreme in the Lakers versus Rockets contest today? And 54.7% is siding with Houston's perimeter small ball play over interior size for the Lakers. So that was kind of interesting to see. That might have been, assuming that Westbrook was playing, which is my first inclination there. But I just wanted to share some other questions. I guess I'll pose these questions to you and then let you know how the BetQL community kind of reacted to these questions here. So the first one we kind of touched on already was over under 228.5 total points in the Pacers versus Suns game. What would you go with there?
I would bet the under there.
Okay, so 52.3% bet the over, but it was very, very close, 130 votes so far. So that was pretty much undecided, right down the middle. I have one here that is 131 votes and 51.1% is the winning answer on this one. So what's the best bet in the Clippers versus Mavericks game? Clippers -4 or Mavericks +4?
I guess it's the Clippers -4, but it's really close for me.
Clippers -4 was the 51.1%, but it's pretty much split there as well. And then the last one, which has a more defined answer here, the Blazers versus Nuggets, who wins straight up tonight?
The Blazers versus Nuggets, who wins straight up tonight? The Blazers win straight up.
Yep. So the 60.3% of our users think the Blazers are going to win that game.
It is weird to see this point spread, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
5.5 point spread. A 4.5 point favorite against Denver. But Denver is missing some pieces, and it's a back-to-back.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Should we
did you go to baseball?
Chat here. Anything else for?
We just locked on the first NBA game that's not on the slate, but I think that just sort of in summing it up, it's going to come down to certain ways how you want to build and stuff, but it's going to be hard to fade hard, and there's a lot of extra other value plays that you can look at. People might overflock to McLemore, so keep an eye on ownership projections. Iguodala is still in play, Caruso is still in play, but not as good at plays as they were. The thing is they're still the same plays they were. So you can play them maybe you double use the value today, because you're going to want probably some of that Houston value. It's just not that exciting. It's honestly, nobody jumps out, but one guy is probably going to make like 6 threes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Want to move into baseball slate?
Let's get on to baseball.
Let's do it. All right. So we'll start with the early games here. Twins at Pirates. Twins are big favorites, -200.
Yeah.
Maeda versus Brubaker. It's Brubaker's first MLB start. Just a couple things I wanted to point out. So since the start of last season, Maeda has a 34.5% strikeout rate versus right-handed hitters. I kind of makes him interesting, depending on what Pittsburgh's lineup is. I don't think they have very many righties in it, though. But also some guys that I think are solid targets on Minnesota here. Max Kepler, he has a 281 ISO versus right-handed pitching since the beginning of last season. He's leading off. And Miguel Sano, a 302 ISO versus right-handed pitching, batting fifth today. What do you think about those two plays, and are you on the Minnesota stack after they kind of let everybody down yesterday?
So because of basketball and the way that things are going, and this is my third thing today, I haven't had a chance to get to the early day slate, but I did look at it briefly before we came on. The Twins are the stack, and Maeda is your pitcher if you're playing in the early slate. That's the way it goes. Priorities, as you mentioned, would be Kepler. Sano would be one of them, but I would put Eddie Rosario and assuming that Eddie Rosario and Nelson Cruz are in the lineup, obviously those would be the other two powerful ones. Not going to be off the board at all. If you get creative, stack the bottom and then use Garver at the top or something like that if you want to try and win a slate.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have really anything more on this game here other than the fact that I probably wouldn't bet on the Twins money line just because, so much variability in baseball. I don't see the upside in doing it. And who knows what'll come from this rookie making his first start today.
They're winning 82% of their games. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah,
all right, moving on to Giants and Rockies. So it's Anderson versus Freeland here. I have a pretty interesting Freeland take in that I think all of last season, I think something was wrong. I think it was a bit of a fluke. I think his ERA was ballooned over 6. I like the fact that he's a ground ball pitcher at Coors. I think that you can fully stack the Rockies here. I think the Rockies are a good bet, even though I probably wouldn't make the bet. I think the over is a good bet, and I think I'd roster every single hitter in the Rockies lineup against Tyler Anderson.
Yeah, I think that would be your priority here for sure. I don't know what to how I like the Twins. That's the pivot, on this slate. But yeah. I actually like Freeland a lot in general too. I think he's better than people think. He was really good a couple years ago in Coors even. I don't know that I would use him. There's not many games to choose from, but I do think that he's definitely he would definitely be on my list. And the popular bats are always there. We always talk about that, but look for weird things you can do, like play the lefties who are slightly lower owned, or try not to play the platoon guys. But at the same time, you might have to if you want to try and play some of the cheap ones who are at the bottom of the order. They are going to be low owned. Just try to get different if you're going to play the Rockies. Don't just play the standard guys and then hope that you get your 1 through 4 and they all hit home runs.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that Anderson has struggled really badly against lefties as well.
Yeah.
That a lot of those Rockies hitters, Blackman, Dahl, those guys have done pretty well against lefties. So
yeah, especially Blackman has always been good in Coors against both righties and lefties. I always say that who's the best play the best guy every night is Mike Trout, and then Blackman when he's in Coors, and Nelson Cruz when he's facing a lefty. Those are your easy ones.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're pretty good for that one, right?
Definitely. All right, moving on.
Priority for the Rockies, by the way.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
I would take a shot with Matt Kemp today. Whenever they're playing in Colorado, I'm just going to keep playing Kemp.
Yeah, absolutely. Rangers Athletics, Mike Minor versus Mike Fiers. Something pretty interesting here is that Rougned Odor, Joey Gallo, Elvis Andrus, and Frazier all have multi-home runs career versus Fiers. I'm not a huge BVP guy, but I think that was pretty interesting to note there for sure. I think the guys in this current lineup have hit 11 or 12 home runs against him in their careers. So I know they've faced each other a lot, but still just wanted to note that. I know that, and then another pretty interesting note here on the other side is that, Mike Minor has been really good at avoiding power. But that A's lineup is very right-handed heavy, and they have traditionally feasted on left-handed pitching. So I think it kind of creates an interesting spot for the Rangers bats, and kind of both bats in this game. But I'd kind of be more on the Rangers than the Athletics if I was stacking one of these teams.
Yeah, it's a lot of good points. I actually think that I wouldn't even mind taking a shot on either pitcher this game, but the guy I would prefer, obviously, would be Minor. The A's can strike out a lot. They also have a lot of power versus lefties, so the A's crush lefties, but I've seen them strike out. I think Minor. I haven't double checked his numbers versus this A's team, but I would personally lean with Minor as a potential SP. Too, and I don't know. I certainly like some of those stats you pointed out, but hadn't really thought about playing too many of the Rangers. But I think that's kind of an interesting way to go. Maybe that's a route you could go to get off the chalk. It is a day game in Oakland in the late summer, so it's not quite these early. When you think about the weather, it's not like it's like 65 degrees like it would have been earlier in the year. I don't think.
Right. Got it. Yeah, we're pretty much on the same page there. Angels Mariners. Now this is pretty interesting here. I don't know what to think about Dylan Bundy, and I don't know what to really think of Taijuan Walker other than Mike Trout owns him, just like he owns pretty much everybody. But I could kind of see either of these pitchers having a solid game, and I could see either of them getting blown up. So I'm kind of just crossing this game off. I don't know what your thoughts are on this.
I love Bundy. So the thing with Bundy is, I'll tell you right now, you can watch Bundy pitch I've watched him pitch since his first start ever. He is absolutely, you're not going to figure him out. He's going to have a high K rate. He's going to at times give up 5 bombs in a row, which I've watched him do. Literally at 5 in a row. I couldn't believe it. But he's legit. Like this is Mariners team doesn't scare me. I would probably lean Bundy over Minor. A little bit, and again, there's always risk with him, but I just am going to play the upside game. And with Walker, I'm not going to pick on the Angels, and I don't mind what you said, Mike Trout. Just if you can get him in, get him in.
Yeah, the baby narrative, I guess, is a real thing.
It's so weird, man. We have so many narratives. Like I get the narratives in basketball; they make sense. They don't make any sense for hitters in baseball. I can see a pitcher making sense. Like there's some games where against older teams, you'll see a guy go out there and throw 130 pitches or something like that, right? Where he's usually throw 110 or 100. But not for hitters. The weird part is that it happens every time there's a baby in baseball. Every time someone has a baby, I swear it happens.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think we both know firsthand that losing sleep, and especially for him getting on a plane and traveling, probably I don't know how that result in a positive situation for him, but I guess that adrenaline I guess really kicks in when you're playing for another person as well. I guess, but
there you go.
That's pretty interesting. The Yankees and Phillies, there's some weather concerns here. I'm in
first team of the main slate. Sorry.
Yep. I'm in nearby Connecticut here. It looks pretty interesting out there again. So it's I think it's something to watch certainly. If this game does play, I think that you can kind of target the left-handed bats of the Yankees. Eflin allowed 243 ISO, 358 WOBA against left-handed batters last season. I know the Yankees lineup really isn't littered with these, but I think you could get some exposure to this lineup with Hicks, Gardner, Tauchman, Ford if they play. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree that you definitely, in general, against Eflin, you want lefties, but the problem is they don't really have good lefties. I mean, Hicks is a switch hitter. Who I tend to prefer righty power, even though he hits better average left-handed. I would go Hicks, and then if Tauchman and Ford are in the lineup, which I haven't seen, I don't think they've released yet unless I missed it. I would prefer Ford than Tauchman and then Gardner. But it's weird because there was a lot of smart people really into Eflin today as a play. I'm not that person. I'm just still going to bet on the good overall Yankee hitters. I don't think he'll be in there all that long anyway because it's his first start of the year. I still like the Yankees a lot, assuming this game plays, and I love Reese and I love McCutchen on the other side. Those are my two standouts for the Phillies.
Yeah, Reese was definitely someone who stood out for me as well. I think I mentioned that there's something off with Gary Sanchez.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's terrible.
I've watched this guy play because we have the Yes Network here, and I have him also on my fantasy team, unfortunately. But I've watched this guy play. He looks completely disjointed up there, like very confused, off balance. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to play him until obviously he can turn it around a little bit here.
Yeah, I have that same attitude with him in general, but at the same time, it could just snap at any point. Like it did last year, he had the same kind of thing going on. But I do think that in general, I've definitely been avoiding him even with my Yankee stacks.
Yeah, obviously super small sample size, but I just wanted to point out that
he looks terrible. That's not even a sample size.
The eye test, he looks god awful. So
yeah, exactly.
All right, moving on to probably the best pitching matchup of the day here. Luis Castillo, Carlos Carrasco, Reds and Indians. The over-under 7.5. I'd say that's probably appropriate for this matchup. I don't really like betting unders in baseball nowadays, but I probably would go there in this contest. And I think the Indians are pretty good. I think they're going to turn around. I like them. I like the top half of their lineup. But this is I probably wouldn't bet on this game, and I probably wouldn't roster any hitters in this game. What are your thoughts there?
Same, and I like both pitchers.
Yeah.
Really nothing crazy to add. Very, very straight down the line. Always you can take a one-off of an excellent hitter. Like if you're not playing one of these pitchers and you're in your lineup you're chalky with Yankees, maybe you play like a Lindor who's going to be lower owned than usual or something like that. Or Ramirez, but in general, you mostly just want to avoid this game.
Yep, definitely. All right, let's move on to a more exciting game here: Blue Jays and Braves. Pearson, who is coming off of that fantastic start in his first outing, versus Toussaint, who struggled in general this season, but I think he did all right in four innings last time out.
Yeah, he did good stuff.
Yeah. Overall, just want to point out a couple things here is that Toussaint's been really bad against lefties dating back to last season. I mean, it's 90 plate appearances. It's not a ton. It's not a huge sample size, but I think it's enough to note that he allowed a 301 ISO, 487 WOBA. So I think that makes Kevin Biggio, Travis Shaw, Rowdy Tellez, Reese McGuire, if they're in the lineup, pretty interesting. And I like Tellez as kind of a sneaky home run call today, just because he profiles pretty well against what Toussaint throws. Toussaint does mix it up quite a bit, I've noticed. So Tellez kind of grades out well against all those different types of pitch types.
News just in: LeBron James is now out.
Oh my God!
I knew this stuff was happening today. I could feel it happening.
Oh boy! Okay. That changes things again.
Oh boy! At least they're getting the test earlier before the game starts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna have to revisit that. We could maybe revisit that real quickly at the end of the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but I agree with where you were on this Blue Jays. I don't think I want to fully stack them, but I think that I have Kevin Biggio and Tellez as two priority guys who I would take shots on. So I love that you called the Tellez thing there because I had the same thing. I saw the pitching profile matches up well, and then Biggio is just, in my opinion, the best lefty they've got with the most power. So it's pretty simple for me. But I don't mind if you want to throw in a righty and make it a 3-man stack or something. But I probably wouldn't fully stack this game. I think the Blue Jays, I probably would just go like a 2 or 3-man.
Yeah, exactly. And on the other side, I mean, that Atlanta lineup, we're still waiting for it to really, really heat up. I think in recent games, Acuna's looked better. He's kind of getting there. But, the top half of this lineup is pretty great. What are your thoughts today? I know Pearson looked really good in his first start, but there is a Blue Jays bullpen behind him as well.
That's right. That is one of the weaker bullpens in baseball. Pearson, I actually think has got stuff. I don't really love it too much, but there's not a lot of stacks to pick from. I think the Braves are interesting because their prices are so high in some spots, but it is a watered down. We don't have Ozzie Albies anymore. They will have guys like Markakis in there, but guys you don't really want to play for DFS. You know what I mean? Guys who will probably be tough to pitch against. But so I'm not going to play Pearson, but I'm I'm struggling. I like the idea of playing Freddie Freeman today. I wish Matt Adams hadn't got hurt the other day, especially because I had him rostered. Acuna, I'm just not like, this is one of the hardest slates for me just to pick out individual bats that I've had this season. So I don't have a whole bunch of them from individual bats, but with the Braves, except for to say that I do like 1 through 4. I just don't think I want to make them my primary stack.
Got it. Well, we'll see what you have to say about the Royals bats here in this next lineup. So Chatwood, shades of TJ Warren hype, where, I don't know if it's exactly warranted. But, I just want to point out that in 2018, Chatwood had 95 walks and 85 strikeouts in 103 2/3 innings. So this is a dude that, if he turned around the control issues, his potential might be there. I'm just not exactly, jumping on the train yet through 2 starts. What's your read on Chatwood here?
I was on this one before any of those starts. I've talked about him a couple times already. I had heard great things about him changing his pitching dynamics in the offseason and actually over the last year that he's really had. And came in this year, and the Cubs staff said that basically the word around was that they feel like he can be a number 1 starting pitcher, an ace. I don't know that I'm going to go fully with it. They have a horrible pitchers umpire, or great hitters umpire in this game, which is not a great sign for a guy like Chatwood, who has historically, as you mentioned, struggled with walks. But I don't mind taking a shot on him here, especially if the ownership is low because everybody plays the other 2 guys in the Reds and Indians game. I think you might be able to get some upside here. I also worry less about pitchers who have control problems against the Royals because they aren't patient. So it sort of negates that. It also may limit sometimes the strikeout upside, but it allows you to cruise further into the games. So I kind of like Chatwood, to be honest, tonight, and I like the Cubs because they make the most sense. The problem is Brad Keller doesn't give up many bombs. Like, it's not exciting. That's what I'm saying today. Like, if you're preferring anybody, you want to go with a Baez probably, or a Schwarber, or a Rizzo, then Bryant. That would be the order I would go. But I don't really like, I don't love it. I'm not loving this baseball slate. Not loving it, to be honest with you.
Yesterday you were talking about how, this Cubs team does like to go base to base. They're not ripe with power, I guess. So, and Brad Keller does limit that power. So I think your analysis is pretty spot on there. And I'm after hearing what you said about Chatwood, I didn't realize that he, did he change his delivery or?
Yeah. He changed his style, and then he also added different pitches. And I think because of the surgery, he's now throwing a lot harder than he ever did, which is pretty much standard.
Interesting.
Yeah,
because usually, I'm thinking of guys with control problems, and that kind of just sticks with me. But in this case, if he change up his delivery, that should be pretty interesting to watch. Good. All right, moving into Astros D-Backs. Leblanc making his first MLB start, and Zach Gallen, who I'm pretty high on the other side there. Leblanc in the minors over the last 2 seasons has been about a strikeout an inning. That's just something to note. But, after last night's football score, 14-7, do you have any interest in the bats on, the Astros or the D-backs tonight?
So that has to be the most barrels I've ever seen in a game, because the worst thing is, and I'm watching my guys fly out, smoke the ball 400 feet to center, and they're flying out even. Even the outs were boomers. Yeah. It was wild, man. And honestly, it wasn't because they had the dome closed. It wasn't anything to do with that, like the old Arizona hitting weather. It just, these guys were just connecting. So I don't know what to do here, because I like Gallen in general a lot. I can't pitch him against this Astros team. I just think it's a mistake. Maybe because of his price. Yeah, I might have to throw him in something, because I do believe in his talent. It's a nightmare lineup. They're patient. They're disciplined in the zone. Doesn't look like it's a good pitcher's umpire. So I would side more with the Astros bats. The problem is I don't really want to pick on him either, but just because they're the next best hitters on the slate to the Yankees, that's basically my only explanation. But I'm not all that excited about that at these prices. So it's just sort of become a little bit of a stay away. And I'm not really going to attack a Houston team. I'm sorry, the D-backs in a bullpen game even though they looked great last night, I just don't feel excited about their bats tonight. So I'm not really that into this one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All right, let's move on.
2-game slate or something.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to the team that gave up Gallen for what was he traded for? Do you remember?
I can't remember the deal off the top of my head right now. If you caught me like 3 weeks ago during quarantine, it would probably have been right at the top of my head. But there's just too many other things up there right now.
Gotcha. I remember immediately my jaw dropped when I saw it. I forgot who was involved with it, but I think was it Jazz Chisholm? I think it was. Maybe. Anyways, Orioles Marlins. Orioles are the favorite here. Which is pretty interesting. Over under 8.5. Leblanc versus Yamamoto. What is your read here? I just want to mention that Leblanc has given up since the start of last season 299 ISO to left-handed batters, 225 ISO to right-handed batters. I know he got off to a decent start so far here, but what's your read on this Marlins lineup?
So. It's so hard to look at these guys and get excited, I'm having the same trouble with everybody today. It's like we have that weird, like I can't figure it out, man. I can't figure out any which way to go. Every pitcher is sort of like, yeah, that's interesting, and every team is like, I don't really want to stack against that guy. Like that's just sort of how I feel. I don't think LeBlanc is that bad a pitcher. I don't mind if you want to go down there. I'm not going to play Yamamoto in his first start of the season because I don't know the pitches, although I think he could dominate here, and I might regret those words. If I played more lineups, I probably would definitely mix him in. The hitters individually are really hard to like because there aren't like great, spots. It's weird about LeBlanc. He's slightly reverse splitsy a little bit when it comes to power and doesn't really give up that much power in general as much as you would think he would. He's had some bad times at times. That last year was worse, but I mean, Logan Forsythe, are we talking about at 3.4? I guess the answer is probably I'm just going to look real quick. Is there – man, I don't know. I guess the best play Brian Anderson maybe? I don't know. It's just nothing about it excites me. Maybe you just get creative and just go like lefty-lefty with Corey Dickerson against LeBlanc. I guess that's probably the best.
Yeah, Dickerson's hit lefties pretty well too. Kind of where I was leaning. I think Jesus Aguilar –
I forgot about
interesting. He doesn't exactly pop out, but I'm right there with you. This as we talk through it, this MLB slate is actually not really exciting me too much here.
Yeah. You want to make it exciting? I'll tell you who you play. Here's a guy who I literally have played as like a one-off a few times in my life, and he once hit 3 home runs for me. He once hit 2 home runs, and he once had a home run and 2 stolen bases. I don't know how that's possible because I think that's all of his career numbers. That's Lewis Brinson.
God, you got it right.
I got him right. So check this out. Can I just tell a really quick story? So there was a giant one on FanDuel that night. It was one of the ones where it was $250K for first place. Yeah. And I've got this lineup, and my starting pitcher that night was Glasnow, I think. And it was a huge tournament. Glasnow gives up I think he gave 9 runs with getting 1 out. So I switch up all my lineups and I try and do everything. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to win or anything, but I'm just going to put it together. So I put this thing together, and I had 2 one-offs who hit 3 home runs, and neither one of them were above 0.1% owned. I was the only person in the tournament with both of them, and one of them was Lewis Brinson. And I ended up finishing like 3rd. I didn't win the tournament, but I finished like 3rd with a pitcher with minus, whatever, $1 million on FanDuel, which is like impossible to do. But anyway, it was pretty fun though.
Yeah, everybody, that's why you need to listen to Bobby Fye every single day because he will make plays like that.
I actually do think that Lewis Brinson is one of the value savers I would look at his low price, his low cost today. He's sort of like a wild guy, former top prospect who sort of has crumbled. But if I was going to make a Baltimore stack just for sentimental value, I'd probably put Lewis Brinson in there.
Nice.
We do have something I like in this next game, though.
Yeah, so Brewers White Sox. This White Sox lineup is really good, really, really good. What are your thoughts there today?
Yeah, let's get him. This is I guess has become, the more I've looked at it, my second favorite spot. Even though this is not on a normal big slate, I would not be talking about the White Sox in this spot probably. But first of all, I think Lynn Bloom is going to get some ownership. Who's starting for Milwaukee? He pitched only 3 2/3 against Pittsburgh the other day. He did strike out 5 guys, But it wasn't like he was really in a jam. He gave 2 runs or whatever. But like, I don't know why everybody's all over this guy and in love with him. I understand he's cheap and he's got some good stuff and he was good in KBO. Just because a pitcher did well in KBO, and by the way, everybody used that as the reason he was going to be stretched out in his first start. And he threw like 50 pitches. Yeah. So I don't know what. Let's just tone down the KBO love, guys. Just a minute. I mean, I know we can love Preston Tucker or whatever, or Kyle Tucker or whatever. We don't need to love Lynn Bloom. Anyway, I personally don't usually like to pick on Milwaukee's bullpen, but I think that there's enough variance, and I think that Lynn Bloom, look, he was good over there, so I'm not going to take his numbers from the KBO and treat them like they're exactly the same as they'd be over here. But I do think that just stacking against a wild card situation is probably the best way to go for a really good lineup that probably gets a little bit overlooked, even though they'll have some ownership. I don't think they're going to be heavily owned. And you've got nice prices on all of them. It's just a really nice stack to build in there to go with my Yankees stack. And I can do it a bunch of different ways. I would prefer, in terms of like priority, it would be Robert, then Mazzara, actually. I love it with Mazzara back in that lineup. Batting 60, I don't care about it. Put him anywhere. He's got tons of power and he's 3.4, one of the better savings on BK. Eloy Jimenez is also a good play. You can go to the expensive spots of our first base and catcher. But I mean, Abreu and Grandal, I have no problem with today. I don't think you need to make them, but I think that Grandal is a great catching option. I just think, and I forgot about Moncada too. Just everybody, I guess Robert, Moncada, then Mazzara, then Grandal would be my preference. But I really do like everyone. I'm just probably not going to end up getting to Danny Mendick or Lurie Garcia. But other than that, I'm probably going 1 through 6 and going to mix it up a little.
Yeah, Robert is slowly becoming one of my favorite DFS plays here early in the season. And I think once the price kind of catches up to his actual skill set, that might change. But he has stolen base upside, he has power upside. When he's hitting a leadoff, it's just outstanding. So I think the White Sox, I think moving forward, are going to be one of those teams, just like the Twins, just like the Yankees, that we can kind of look to, just like the Astros, that on any given night could just go off. So I think that's a fantastic one to look at today. You want to get into those questions or those poll questions, kind of see what.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I want to real quick answer Eric Johnson's question in chat. Real quick, guys. Also, when you remember, please like and subscribe and all that stuff. If you're not already doing it, we really appreciate it. It means a lot. But I got a question about my thoughts on Luka to Harden chalk. I don't know what the question is. I think that what he means is going from Luka to Harden. I mean, yeah, that's going to be the chalky thing to do. It makes sense. Hard to fade. Trying to play them together is interesting. But I would prefer – I'm just going to play Harden more. I mean, sorry. That's just the way it's going to roll for me tonight. Yeah. I wish I had something creative for you, Eric. I really do. This is the guy who stacked Arizona the last couple of nights too. So he's actually he's been on it.
With LeBron out, let's just get into that real quick while we're talking. Yeah. With LeBron out, are you going to lock in AD now, or is it a little bit of a different situation for you there?
It's a different situation for sure to me, but I definitely am open to it. I think playing JaVale McGee, Eric just asked about him for the Lakers. There's no benefit to JaVale McGee from this happening at all. He's playing the second of a back-to-back. Howard missed the game last night. He never plays more than 18 minutes. If he puts up a number, it will be purely by coincidence. That's my personal take on it. He hasn't put up a number in a million. But again, he's a guy who can put up like 30 and a quarter sometimes. If it goes his way, I see why you're thinking because he can rebound here, but just can't do it. I'm looking at my Laker plays here, and I'm just going to try and update my projections. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to do that yet. So Kuzma is a monster boost, which we have to remember. He should have to do a lot more offensively. And by the way, just because LeBron's out doesn't mean it's not like Anthony Davis won't be announced out later. Just keep that in mind, I don't know. Just something to think about.
Yep.
Anyway, I think I hicked up there for a minute, but I do think I would love to just real quick before we get out of here because we're basically done, but I want to real quick touch on the Lakers. I would play. I think it is Davis is the natural one, but other guys who are involved, Caruso, Deion Waiters is now firmly in play. I'm going to need to update my minutes, guys. I'll tell you what, you can hit me up on Twitter or whatever, and I can answer those questions later. And if I can get it to update in the next few minutes, I will, but I just don't think that's going to happen. It usually takes like a half hour or so. But I'm going to need to take a look at that because I not that I always agree with projections, but with basketball, this is a pretty good system that will really give me a feeling for minutes for each player. So that's what I'm waiting on today.
Cool stuff. And before we get out of here, I just want to kind of point out once again that if you go to betql.co, enter code MLB is back, you get 20% off any subscription. There you get best bets. You'll get live sharp data, live public data, access to pretty much everything you might need to make the most informed bets possible, score projections. Bobby, you have full access here for the last couple of months we've been working together. And, like you said, there's a lot of awesome tools on there. Same thing with RotoQL for DFS purposes. In the link in this video description here on YouTube and Facebook, you'll see the 3-day free RotoQL offer for new users. So check that out. All you need to do is click and sign up for a free account. So our optimizer works in milliseconds. So you just simply lock in your favorite plays, exclude who you want to exclude, and we'll do the rest for you. So we have a lot of tools over here at QL, and next week we have some pretty exciting QL TV things going on, but I'll tease that out until tomorrow when we make the announcement. But we appreciate you guys watching. And Bobby, is there anything you want to tell these guys before we head out here?
No, good luck tonight. Let's keep keep looking at who the Lakers are going to start and try and figure out what we're going to do with those minutes. That's going to be the important part of what we do in that game. But yeah, it's going to be a wild NBA slate. It's not the most fun baseball slate, but man, it's been great doing the show with you. I think it moves really smoothly, and I think that we can keep this going. And guys, if you ever have any ideas, hit us up on Twitter, on anywhere, and let us know what we can do to make the show more suitable to you guys, because I think it's running really well. I know we don't have a huge group in yet, but we are broadcasting on different stations all over the place, and hopefully we'll keep building this up. And Dan, I hope we can keep doing this together, man. I really enjoy it.
Absolutely. And I want to also point out, share this on Facebook as well. If you like our RotoQL and BetQL pages on Facebook, share this with your friends and get that out there, because that's another kind of avenue we're exploring here. So thank you everybody for checking us out, and we'll keep this rolling. Thanks Bobby for having me on with you, and doing a great job as always.
Yeah, likewise, man.
All right. Sounds good.